everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here on our YouTube channel, where we have been releasing content from our 2022 conference. Today, we are going to be releasing another breakout session from a dear brother for both of us, for me and Randall that's here with me, and that is Floyd Ogle. So I'm going to throw it over to Randall, let him tell you a little bit about Floyd, and before we get to today's session.
Yeah, man, Floyd is an incredible person. He has a heart for men, a heart for leading others, and man, the only thing that I think can even get close to doing justice for describing Floyd and his heart is, man, he is real. He is the most real person that I think I've ever met, and man, just honored to know him. Excited for you guys to hear his word as he talks about the old wolf mindset and just the mantra of "Give me my mountain." And man, Floyd is the kind of guy that you want to run through the fire with. And man, I'm gonna tell you, I hope you're challenged and convicted by his message today.
Man, such true words about Floyd. So, hey, we're fixing to go right into this session. The next session, it is audio only for this breakout. So you can put it on your speaker, listen to it as Floyd gives a good word. And hey, if you, man, really enjoy this, make sure that you make plans to join us for our 2023 conference, which will be August 24th, 25th, 26th at Ridgecrest Conference Center in Black Mountain, North Carolina. And you can get registered and find our podcast and so many more tools to equip you in your walk with Christ at movministries.org. So once again, thank you for joining us today, and we're going to turn it over and hope this is a blessing to you. God bless.
You guys. So I will say this, I probably don't have to give a disclaimer then. I have a tendency to be a little aggressive sometimes. I use verbiage that isn't always necessarily acceptable in some Christian circles, and I will not apologize for that. So let me tell my story a little bit. This isn't in my notes. I didn't plan to do this. So I grew up in church, got saved at a very young age, and accepted a call to preach at a very young age. Very young. I told somebody earlier that I've been doing this. I've been speaking publicly for about 35 years in a ministerial way, which means I started at about the age of 13. And grew up in a super fundamentalist church, Pentecostal church, super fundamentalist Pentecostal church. There is such a thing. And the only difference between an independent fundamentalist Baptist church and a super fundamentalist Pentecostal church is tongues. And, I got chastised one time for wearing a baseball hat in the sanctuary in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day while I was working there. And I didn't respond too well to that. And I might have been a little bit of a smart aleck and said something about head coverings in the temple, but that caused me over the years to turn into what I would describe as a Pharisee. And I turned into this guy that had a really distinct and really harsh mentality of what we should be against. And I knew all of the things that you could not do as a believer. I knew everything that you could not do. You can't say that word. You cannot say that word if you're a Christian. You cannot drink that drink if you're a Christian. You can't put that to your lips if you're a Christian. I knew the things that should not come across your lips, and I knew the things that should not come to your lips if you were a Christian. And I preached the gospel from the time that I was 13 years old. And I did all of those things, and I said all of the right words, and I didn't say any of the wrong words. And I did a lot of the wrong things. And I realized that the words of your mouth have a lot less to do with the condition of your heart than it would appear. Because while the things that I said and the things that I didn't say appeared to the world to be that of a believer, if they could have seen my heart, I was the most jacked up person you can imagine. I was filled with hate. So I could, what you could only describe as a Pharisee among Pharisees. And full-time ministry for, I became a youth pastor at the age of 21, 22 years old. And I did that from 1995, 96 until 2009. It was November of 2008. I walked into the kitchen of the parsonage in which I lived as a full-time pastor, senior pastor. And I told my wife that I was frustrated with everything. And we started at that moment developing an exit strategy to leave ministry. And I left ministry and began a process and I made mistakes along the way, and I won't go too deep into the details of that, but what happened is because my identity was so wrapped up in my Pharisee mindset, was so wrapped up in my position as a pastor, I didn't identify as a son. I identified as a pastor only. And so when I left ministry, I didn't know how to have a relationship with God. I only knew how to be a pastor. And so I didn't know how to be a child of the King. I only knew how to be a pastor. And so when I left ministry, I didn't know how to be a Christian. I only knew how to be a Pharisaical pastor. And so I left ministry and I left my relationship with God behind. And so I went into this 7-year spiral of getting further and further away from God, and then God would reach for me and I'd slap his hand away, and I went through this deconstruction of faith that wasn't really faith, it was Pharisee, and realized that none of the crap that I went through before really mattered, and none of the things that I thought mattered. God doesn't give two craps about the words you use. He cares about what's in your heart. See, God doesn't have a list of words that are right or wrong. Don't get me wrong, the world does. If you say poop with anger in your heart, God cares more about that. God cares about your heart. He doesn't care about your tongue. He cares about your heart. God's not a verbiage guy. He's a heart guy. The world cares about your tongue. The world cares about your verbiage. But God cares about your heart. So, my words may be crass, and they may be harsh, but I promise you, my heart is soft. And my heart, I started to say unfortunately, my heart oftentimes leaks out through my eyes, and I don't count it as unfortunate. And I've had people call me a sissy before, but they only do it once. Another quick story, and then we'll move on. I made the mistake one time of saying, God, I'm tired of crying. I don't want to do it anymore. And then I spent 2 years without a tear. And I was angry all the time. And in anger and frustration and rage, just violent rage all the time. And I got so mad, and I said, God, what the hell is wrong? I don't want to be like this anymore. And he said, you don't want to cry? The only emotion you have left is this. And I said, I'll take it back. Let me cry. I cried for 2 or 3 days, man. I cried over everything, and I've cried ever since. And I'm fine with it. I'll never say that again. Don't ever say I don't want to cry. So listen, man, after last year's talk, it was recommended that we have a counseling session. While I don't intend for this year's talk to be quite so rough, I do feel that this may be a little more interactive, and we only have an hour, and since we started a little bit early, we may have some more time, and even though I've told a couple stories, we do still have about 55 minutes left in our allotted time. So as we're talking, I only have a few rules. I've given you my stance on verbiage, so I only have a few rules. Number one is, what happens here stays here, and that is a little bit different in this session because I do have a mic on. So what happens here stays here, except for the fact that it will be on the sessions on the podcast or YouTube or however they're going to do that. So keep that into consideration with your shares. If you're sharing, know that you won't necessarily be identified unless you have a super distinct voice. I won't call you by name when I recognize you in this. I'll just kind of point to you if you have something to say, or you can just talk. The only person that they'll know who it is for sure is me. So, and this mic may not even pick you up. I don't know how directional it is. So what happens here stays here. The other thing is no Sunday school answers. What I mean by that is the answer is not always Jesus, okay? I mean, Jesus is the answer, but he's not always the answer when we're talking about this. The other thing is just talk how you talk. No flowery language. If you cuss when you talk, cuss. Kevin, I'm talking to you. Just keep it, just be real. Be how you are. Nobody's going to judge you, certainly not me. And after they hear me talk for a few minutes, they won't judge you anyway. And then keep it concise because we only have an hour. So these aren't questions that I necessarily want you to answer out loud. Just we can all kind of answer as a group. But I do want you to consider these questions. Where are you, honestly? Where are you right now in your walk? Where are you, honestly, in your walk right now? And how did you get there? And what needs to change? Because here's the reality. No matter where you are in your walk, no matter whether you're in the mountain, no matter whether you're in a valley, no matter whether you're whether you're on a spiritual growth track or not, there is always going to be room for improvement, right? So where are you right now, honestly? Be honest with yourself and ask yourself, where am I right now? How did I get here? And what needs to change? And if you're in a good place, you can ask yourself, how did I get here? And so that answer to that can help you continue to grow, because how did I get here? Then let's continue to do those things. If you're in a bad place, how did I get here? Okay, these things need to change. So that's always a good question to ask yourself. How did I get here? If I'm in a bad place, how did I get here? Well, I can point back to 2 or 3 things that got me to this negative place, and I can make some adjustments, and I can begin to make those changes. If I'm in a good place, I can usually point back to 1, 2, 3 good things, and I can continue to repeat those things over and over again, and continue to provide momentum to propel myself forward. And then I can continue to do that. So this is a question that I do want you to answer. And if nobody, offers up, I will point you out. I was a youth pastor for a long time. I have no problem being aggressive and just calling you out. Aside from God, your bride, and your church, what has been the most impactful thing on your relationship with Christ? Aside from God, your bride, and your church, what's been the most impactful thing on your relationship with Christ?
My brother's death has brought me closer to God. There was no fighting, there was no arguing with God, no why this, why that. Just got to be with him when he passed. It was the most devastating moment of my life, but also the most beautiful to be saved and to watch him go home to God really kind of mollified me. And it has been a struggle.
Sure.
I've had some fallbacks, but I want to answer the first question. I'm still on the fringe, and I've taken some huge blows from that. It's been a personal test, but my brother saved me by dying. If that makes any sense. Amen, bro.
Yeah, and I think I understand, but let's unpack that just a little bit. So your brother was a believer.
Yes, sir.
Older brother, younger brother?
Older brother.
Older brother. So he was a believer and you were not yet?
I was still a believer.
Still a believer.
I didn't wear it on my sleeve the way he did.
So he was an example for you.
I didn't know that until the day
until he died. You always kind of looked up to him, but you didn't realize it until you were faced with the reality of him not being there.
No, I became the dominant brother of decisions, life decisions, and he just took everything on stride and put his faith in God. And I did not do that until he passed. He gave everything to God, and I have, to this day, have not yet. And that's where I am in my walk.
And so, because of his example, you're striving to do that? Is that what you're saying?
I think because of the results of his death.
Yeah.
Everybody at his funeral said exactly the same thing about my brother. And if anybody in this room knew him, you would know him exactly the same way I knew him. He was the same person for everybody in every situation. And the only thing he knew how to do was love you. Precious.
That's awesome, man.
Yes. This vest was his, and I'm wearing this as a physical reminder of my growth, my weakness, and my dependence on my brother, and his dependence on God. So that's why I got this on this weekend. If anybody's wondering.
I was. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. I like it.
It's a real icebreaker, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. I like it. That's good, man. That's good.
So most impactful thing in my relationship was a couple of years ago. I work in the corporate environment, and late at night I was in an email exchange with a guy who was much more senior than me. And there were like 400 people on copy, which is never a good means of communication.
Oh, man. Yeah, no.
And so he was trying to go down a path, and my job was to analyze the situation, give him intel, feedback, etc. And he was going to drive the train off a cliff, and I was trying to respectfully warn him. And I'd known this guy for a long time, very emotional, to say the least, and he was getting more and more frustrated, to the point the last email to me was filled with F-bombs. Now, I couldn't afford that to HR, and he's done. And I just stopped. And what the Lord put on me, because I had always had a heart of contempt, and he posed this question: what path did he walk in life that he thought that was a good response in that moment? And instead of calling him out or exercising my rights, if you will, when they had the altar call or prayer time at church, I went up and I just got the world praying for this guy. And it's just transformed me to stop in those moments and not deal with the circumstance, but wonder what led the individual to think that was a good way to behave.
Yeah. So you recognize that guy was damaged, and it was the damage that had been inflicted on him that was causing him to inflict more damage.
Right.
Yeah.
Hurt people.
Hurt people. That is.
I never saw that.
And that is it. And if you can realize that in any situation, like when somebody's being a jackass, if you go, oh, you're just broken, and somebody else broke you, and that's if you in any scenario, if you can realize that, and here's the thing that sucks is when I realized that about my dad, because my dad jacked me up, and when I realized that about my dad, all of that hurt, all of that woundedness, I hate John Eldridge, all of that woundedness just kind of went away. All of the hate, all of the contempt, all of the anger just kind of went away. So it was indirectly the relation for you. It was indirect relationships. It was the relationships that guy had that had messed him up.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, mine would be when we got custody of the two boys.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my wife, we'd gotten away from church.
Yeah.
And so when we got them, we took them to church. And everyone said that, we're saving them, but they saved us.
Right. So for you, it was new relationships. Yeah. The new relationships. You're a dad now. Yeah.
From 0 kids to 2 kids. Me and my wife can't have kids.
Yeah.
And so God gave us these 2 kids.
Yeah, instant daddy. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a different challenge.
Yeah, 100%. Right. 100%.
I can talk for hours, but unequivocally, it's the fire team that I've surrounded myself with, the guys I do life with. I had zero men's groups. I had zero any kind of accountability. I was in a large religion for about 44 years of my life, and there was absolutely nothing to do with discipleship, brotherhood, nothing like that. And when I finally broke away from that and got into SoulCon, and then, throughout the years, I've surrounded myself with some amazing men that have been absolutely instrumental in my growth. And if you don't have it, you need it. Amen, brother. You really need it, because you may not even know how bad you need it until you get it. So I encourage you all to find some guys that you can really do life with, the guys that are pulling you by the face mask. And when they say how you doing, you say I'm doing okay. They're the guys that say, no man, how you really doing?
You guys, right? Isn't it great what he's talked about there, being surrounded?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is one of the most comforting thoughts in the world. Those of you that have been in battle and everything, you know what it is to be surrounded, and to have that core group around you, you become impenetrable. And that's what I find so rewarding and everything. These testimonies that we got, I know these two guys, and I love them. My brothers, we're in the church together, and I know where they're coming from.
Right.
And they reached deep down in there this morning and brought this stuff out to share with you guys.
Right.
And all we can do is lift them up.
Right.
And thank you for being up there leading us this morning, sir.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. So there's a common thread through all of this. Do you see it? It's relationships.
Amen, brother.
It's the brother. It's the father. It's the brokenness, the indirect relationships. It's the fire team. The fire team. You guys might have a fire team. We have the fire team. I'm just saying. So another quick story. I'm sorry. Listen, you know it is the fire team when a guy's wallet gets stolen in a restaurant and another guy walks around and gets the wallet back just by looking at people. Kid you not. True story. One of our guys' wallet got stolen in a restaurant. Rob Roy walks around the restaurant looking at people. A few minutes later, like we're going to the car. Hey, the wallet is at the desk. And then the guy runs to his car, takes off. Rob Roy is a monster. Humble warrior. That's what we call him. The humble warrior. Listen, here's one of the most incredible things about Christ and what he did. He put his hope and his faith. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're saying, no, Floyd, we put our hope and faith in Christ. No, Christ put his hope and faith in us. Christ put his hope and faith in us. Christianity is one generation from extinction if we don't do our job. He put his trust in you. He put his hope and his trust in you. Jeremy Foster said, you will leave a legacy whether you realize it or not. Legacy is simply what you leave behind you when you go. Legacy is simply where your life lives on. There's a famous quote from Tecumseh, and I love this quote. It says, when your time comes to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song like a hero going home. Sing your death song like a hero going home. Man, when it comes my time, I want to die in my bed, surrounded by those who love me. And I want to be able to look them in the eye, knowing that I served them well. And I spoke every word that I had for them and that God had for me to speak to them. I want my children and my grandchildren to be able to look at me with a peace and a comfort in their eyes, knowing that I gave them everything that I had. And I don't care about money. If you know me, you know that I don't care about money at all. Money is a renewable resource. I can lose everything that I have. I can make more money. You know what I can't make any more of? Time. I can't make more time. You can waste my money. I waste my money all the time. I don't give two craps about money. Money means nothing to me. That is not what you want to hear from the guy that runs your church finances. And I do run the church finances. I am careful with the church finances. I am not careful with my own. I don't care about money. Money is a renewable resource. I'll make more money. I've always been a hustler. I'll hustle, I'll make more money. I'll sell something just to buy something else. I don't care. But I can't make more time. You can waste my money. Don't waste my time. I want to be able to look my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren in the eye, knowing that I gave them every moment that they desired. Knowing that I poured into them, and knowing that they received everything from me that they needed. Maybe not everything that they wanted, but everything that they needed. Legacy is where your life lives on. And James tells us that this life is a vapor. So what are you leaving behind? And I know that this sounds like an old man's message, but I wish that somebody would have told me this 20 years earlier. Because I wasted a lot of time in my 20s, and I wasted sometimes in my 30s, but I learned this in my mid-30s. I married my high school sweetheart at 20 years old. I had my son shortly after my 21st birthday. Had my daughter just before I turned 23. Yep, we moved quick. Adopted my older son. And I am 48 years old with grandchild number 7 and 8 on the way. Don't waste my time. My kids don't either. They are fruitful and they multiply. So I've been thinking a lot about legacy. But I'm not thinking about what I leave in them. I'm not thinking about what I leave to them. I'm thinking about what I leave in them. The problem for a lot of us is we can't put anything in them because we don't have enough in us. We don't really know who we are, so we can't tell them who they're supposed to be. Do you want to know why we have a generation that is confused about their identity? Because the generation before them couldn't speak into their identity because they didn't know who they were. We were confused about who we were, so we couldn't tell them who they were supposed to be. The world, Carl Jung said, the world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, it will tell you. And that's what's happening to this generation. And I'm not just talking about gender identity. That's an issue, but that's not the only issue. That's not the only issue. Yeah, it's an issue. It's a big issue. It's a massive issue. But it's not the only issue. The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you who you are. Who are you? Who are you really? Who are you really? When the lights are closed, when the lights are off and the doors are closed, who are you really? Behind closed doors, when nobody's looking, when nobody's going to know, who are you really? What do you do when no one knows? When the doors are closed and the lights are off, if there's no fear of getting caught, if there's no fear of anybody finding out, who are you really? In the depths of your heart, in the recesses of your mind, who are you really? Are you really the tough guy that you are trying to portray that you are? Or are you really a coward? Psalm 71:18 says this. So even to old age and gray hairs, O God, do not forsake me until I proclaim your might to another generation and your power to those to come. Judges 2:10 says, "And all that generation were gathered to their fathers, and there arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord or the work that he had done for Israel." Catch these words, gathered to their fathers. So who are you really? And what are you leaving to those that are going to come after you? What are you leaving in those that are going to come after you? And this starts when you're young. Because the habits that you develop when you're young, become character traits when you get older. And I see all the older guys. The older that you are in this room right now, the harder you're shaking your head.
That's right.
Psalms 144:4 says, "Man is like a breath, his days are like a passing shadow." So why would we consider going one more day without making a difference in those that we're leaving behind? See, I'm not just talking about dying without leaving something in the next generation. I'm talking about, why would we go another day without speaking into the next generation? I mean, I'm 48 years old. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, I'm thinking about legacy a lot. But I'm only 48. And I know it's hard to believe by looking at me, but I'm in better shape now than I was at 38. I'm 48 years old. But Floyd Ogle A is on the way. He'll be here in November. And Jackson, you better believe that I'm going to chase his butt around. I'm going to hit a golf ball with him. I'm going to smoke a cigar with him. I'm going to be at his wedding. You better believe that I'm going to beat the snot out of my grandboys. You better believe it. And you better believe that I'm going to be there when their boys are born. I got years left in this body. I was on the bike the other day and I was watching a video and talking about how a man should act at his father's funeral. And I sent it to my son and he woke up to it. And I won't tell you the word that he used when he responded to it, because he talks like I do. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm not going anywhere, man. I just wanted you to know." And because I'm thinking about legacy a lot, man. But I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. But I want him to be thinking about legacy. He's 27. But he's got his 4th child on the way. But I want him to be thinking about his legacy. He owns a 10-chair barbershop. And I don't want to just be thinking about his financial legacy. I don't want him to just be thinking about what he's leaving to his kids. I want him to be thinking about what he's leaving in his kids. Because I messed him up when he was little. I messed him up. I mean, I didn't do anything super bad, and I didn't do anything that I couldn't correct. Me and his mom are still married, happy marriage, good life. But I did a lot of things bad because I was 21 years old when he was born. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I want you to be thinking about what you're putting in them. So what are you putting in? What are you putting in them? Psalms 144:4. Man is like a breath. His days are a passing shadow. Why would we go one more day? So let's back up just a second for context here. Psalms 144:1. Blessed the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my steadfast love and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, and he in whom I take my refuge, who subdues people under me. O Lord, what is man that you regard him, or the Son of Man that you think of him? Man is like a breath. His days are like a passing shadow. Just backed up all the way to the beginning of my notes. What is man follows He trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle, my shield, my refuge, my authority. What is man? Did David forget the words that he had just written down? Did he forget the words that he had just penned? Never forget. Our hands are trained for war. Our fingers are trained for battle. We were built for war. We were built for a fight. We were built to do battle. That is what our form was built for. And I like what J.J. Manning said in a devotional a while back. He said, our hands were built for war. Our fingers were built for battle. Even in the small details that God gave us, He designed us for battle. He designed us for war. Even into the little minute things. Never forget that our fingers were made for battle. Through forgetfulness, never forget, through forgetfulness comes harmfulness. And we weren't created for harmless. We were not created for harmless. Somebody define meek for me. What does meek mean?
Power under control.
Well, you're cheating. So how do we balance the meek shall inherit the earth? You're a Greek scholar, man. I forget that. How do we balance the meek shall inherit the earth with the world's definition of meek? Because when the world thinks of meek, right, the world thinks of pussified. The world thinks of soft. The world thinks of soft, passive, or passivity, or submissive passivity. How do we balance that with be of good courage, be strong in the Lord and in the power of His might, stand firm in the faith, be men of courage, be strong? Meek, the Greek word meek is pruthres, and it means mild of disposition, gentle of spirit, and meekness. It does mean mild, gentle, and meek, but here is what it means biblically. The English translation is not the best. And this is why we need to all be more like Carl. A word study will lead you to the Greek word pros. Pros means properly temperate, displaying the right blend of force and reserve, avoids unnecessary harshness, yet without compromising or being too slow to use necessary force. Do you get that? Yet without being too slow to use necessary force. You see, the original writers of the meek shall inherit the earth understood that you could not be considered gentle without the ability to be brutal. You cannot be considered gentle without having the ability to be absolutely brutal. The biblical idea of meekness and gentleness are incomplete without both strength and control. Biblical meekness is not passivity or weakness. Biblical meekness is measured, deliberate, and properly deployed power. Measured, deliberate, and properly deployed power. And I know it feels like I took a right turn, but I'm going to bring it back. Jordan Peterson probably said it best. It's carrying a sword, but knowing when to unsheath it. Those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed. Get the idea of a tame stallion. Power under control. Power under direction. Something that is out of control is wild and even destructive, but when tamed or bridled. Flashback to last year if you were here. In his book, Wild at Heart, John Eldredge wrote this. If you spend any time around stallions, you know that a stallion can be a major problem. They're very strong, and they've got a mind of their own. They can get downright aggressive. A stallion is hard to tame. If you want a safer, quieter animal, there's an easy solution. You castrate it. A gelding is much more compliant. You can lead it around by the nose. It'll do whatever it's told. There's only one problem. Geldings don't give life. A gelding is a castrated horse, a pussified horse. A gelding is a male horse. Gilding a male horse allows it to be calmer and better behaved, allowing the animal to be quieter, gentler, and potentially more suitable as an everyday working animal that does what it's told. There's only one problem. The gelding is incapable of bringing life to anything. So the thought is that we can either be weak or we can be impotent. But what if the stallion could be tamed? What if the stallion could be tamed?
Conquer the world.
Conquer the world. Jordan Peterson said this. He said, the harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man that has it under voluntary control. What we need are men that are willing to look inside of themselves and find the warrior. We need men that are willing to look inside of themselves and find the monster that is still on the inside of them and keep him on a leash, but give him just enough chain to do what needs to be done. And to teach the next generation to do the same. Here's a concept that gets misused so frequently, and it pisses me off, to be honest. Like, seriously, this makes me mad. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. I hate that saying so much because it's so misused. Listen, and this is what the thought process behind this. People are using this to say, lay down your sword. It's not actually what it means. This, by no means, even there's like, just read it. This is by no means telling you to lay down your sword. It is actually a misinterpreted phrase, paraphrase. Does anybody know where the original quote came from? It came from Sun Tzu. You know what Sun Tzu wrote? The Art of War. Here's the original quote. Tending the garden is a relaxing pastime, but it does not prepare one for the inevitable battles of life. It's easy to be calm in a serene setting. To be calm and serene when under attack is much more difficult. So therefore, I teach you that it is far better to be a warrior tending to his garden rather than a gardener at war. It's much different than the way that it gets used. We should be warriors. We should be warriors. We should be monsters. The problem is that we are at war all the time. There is a war going on for this generation such as this world has never seen. There is a battle for the souls of men. There has always been a battle for the souls of men and women. But there is a battle for the souls of men like we have never seen. And right now, there is a victory that is happening. There is a war that is being fought and being lost by the church for this current generation that is coming of age. We are losing the fight for the generation that is coming of age. We are losing the generation that is coming of age. They are dying at a rate that is unprecedented. They are leaving the church at an unprecedented rate. Who is going to fight the fight? Who is going to do the battle? Who is going to stop it? Who is going to stand in the gap? Who is going to fight the battle? Who is going to be the warrior? Who is going to pick up the sword? Who is going to do the battle? There's too many freaking warriors that are in the garden Nobody's picking up the sword. Everybody's beating their swords into plowshares. We don't realize where we are. We're not putting anything in them because we've forgotten who the hell we are. We're losing this generation. This isn't about age. It's about a mentality. But where are the old wolves? Where are the old wolves? And that's why I said the old wolf mindset. Because Paul told Timothy in 1 Timothy 4:12, let no man despise your youth, but be an example to the believers. But the give me my mountain comes from Joshua chapter 14, verse 12. And now behold the Lord, Caleb said to Joshua this, and now behold the Lord has kept me alive, just as he said, for these 45 years, since the time that the Lord spoke these words to Moses while Israel walked in the wilderness. And now, behold, I am this day 85 years old, and I am as strong now as I was the day that Moses sent me. And my strength is now as it was then, for going and for coming. That means for doing battle. So now give me my mountain, which the Lord said to me on that day. For you heard on that day how the giants were there at the great fortified city. And now the Lord will be with me, and I will drive them out, just as the Lord said. For Caleb, the mountain was more than just a hill. For Caleb, it was more than just a hill. It was more than just a hillside. It was more than just property. For Caleb, the mountain represented a promise. It was a promise. It was a hope. It was something to believe in. It was something to fight for. It was something worth fighting for. It was something worth dying for. It was something worth dying for. But more important than that, it was something worth living for. It was something worth living for. What's your mountain? What is that thing that you're willing to die for, but you'd much rather live for? And I hope that in your heart and in your mind's eye, you're seeing the faces of your own children and children in your church and young people in your community right now. And if you're not, then I pray that when you go back to your homes, wherever they are, that you see people, that you're driving down the street and you see, and I hope for some of you, I hope the one that you see is the homosexual kid walking down the street. I swear, I hope you do. I hope you see the drug addict. Man, because you know what? Hurt people, and just because their brokenness is different than yours, we need some men that have a give me my mountain mentality. Sorry, Jordan. We need some men that have a give me my mountain mentality. The world needs some men that have a give me my mountain mentality. The world needs some men. The broken need some men that have a give me my mountain mentality. The drug addicts need some men that have a give me my mountain mentality. The lost need some men that have a give me my mountain mentality. The next generation needs some men that recognize that they are our mountain and have a give me my mountain mentality. Where are the warriors? Sun Tzu said, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war and then seek to win. Caleb said, it's been 45 years, and I'm just as strong now as I was then. You know what Caleb was doing for those 45 years? He was getting ready. He was getting ready. He was making himself ready. He was training. He was planning. He was working. He was going through the process. Processes always suck. There's always going to be a process, and processes always suck. And the process is the process. But if you can't handle the pain of the process, you'll never be able to handle the pain of the promise. Listen, there are two primary ways that you can gain strength. One is fighting and one is training. So we have to assume that Caleb spent his time preparing and training. Caleb had the give me my mountain mentality because he knew who he was. He knew who he was. And I want you to look back over your life. And I want you to think about the battles that you have fought. And I want you to think about the battles that you've won. And I want you to remind yourself who you are. I want you to stop acting like a yappy little cocker spaniel and remind yourself that you're a wolf. Paul Coughlin said the problem with the church, and it's to everyone's detriment, is that Christian men have become more like poodles, a once admirable hunting dog, now housebroken and afraid to get their feet wet. Where are the leaders? Where are the mentors? Where are the wolves? Man, if you think about it, if you think that you're a leader and you turn around and nobody's following you, you're not a leader. You're just a guy on a walk. Andy Stanley said leaders are not called to make a point. They're called to make a difference. I was having a conversation recently with my good friend Bill Shine. And he said this. He said, we're not trying to win the argument. We're trying to win the relationship. Stop trying to win the fight, man. Start building the relationships. Listen. Some of your kids, they were looking for leaders, and they ended up with you. Some of your wives thought they were marrying a wolf, and they got stuck with you. If you think you're a wolf, where's your pack? Where's your pack? Where are those that you're protecting? Where are those that you're providing for? If we don't lead, if we don't mentor, if we don't get that old wolf mentality, we will not see an end to the number of generations that we are negatively impacting. I did a little research on wolves, and wolf expert Rick McIntyre suggests that the alpha wolf can indeed be violent and assertive if the situation calls for it. Yet, for the most part, the alpha wolf leads not with noisy brashness and teeth bared in aggression, but steady strength, mettle, and heart. He says that the main characteristic of the alpha male wolf is a quiet confidence, quiet self-assurance. He knows what he needs to do. He knows what's best for his pack. He leads by example, and he's very comfortable with that. And he has a calming effect. Would you ever consider an alpha wolf meek? No. Listen, we should be training and preparing for the promise, and we should be preparing the next generation for the same thing. If we could rewrite that passage from Judges to say, if I could rewrite Judges 2:10 for myself, it would say this: when I was gathered to my fathers, there will arise a generation after me that were warriors, and they knew the Lord and the work that he had done. But if I do not change my mindset, I will leave my children and my grandchildren with the torture of fighting battles that I could never win. Malachi 4:6 says, he will turn the hearts of the children to the fathers, and the hearts of children, and the hearts of the fathers to the children. We have a generation of men that have grown up without a positive male role model. And we're seeing an identity crisis in this generation. We're seeing a generation that doesn't know who they are. We're seeing a generation that is leaving the church in unprecedented numbers. We're seeing a generation that is being captivated by the world. We're seeing a generation that is being captured by the enemy. And we're seeing a church that is passively sitting by and letting it happen. And that has been the enemy's plan for years. When the enemy began to attack the family years ago with absent and absentee families through a couple of things. Through divorce, through the American dream, through the absentee father, through alcoholism, and through the man cave. Those things have created a different type of the man cave has created an entirely different type of absentee father, a present absentee father. Your children do not have to be biological for you to father them. My oldest son does not have a single drop of my blood. My oldest son does not have a single drop of my blood. And there is not a legal document anywhere in the world that makes him mine. But if you ask him, I'm his dad. And my bride is his mom. His children have no idea that he did not come from my loins and my wife's womb. We are his mom and his dad. And that is the way that it is.
Amen, bro.
He will always be mine.
That's right. And you did.
100%. And it's fun too. He has the same food allergies as my birth children.
I wonder why.
Blair, his oldest, her eyes are the same color as her uncle, which is no blood relation. Logan, his middle, has the same eye color as myself. Eli has my eye color. Neither one of his parents have that eye color. Eli looks just like me. Eli is my spitting image. No blood. They're mine. God's good. All the time. You can mentor. You can lead. You can father. You can be a spiritual father. And I will tell you this. You will gain a young man. You will gain a young man's respect more so if you father them without them being your biological son than if you do it out of love more than out of obligation, you're going to gain their respect. Timothy would have followed Paul into the fire. you will earn their respect. And you'll make a difference in their life. And then you know what will happen? They'll do it again and again. There's a couple of things that are important, and we're going to move real quick because I'm over time. There are a couple of attributes of a good father. Number one is you have to own your issues. And we see this, all of these examples come from Paul. Number two, you have to foster growth. 1 Timothy 4:12, let no man despise your youth, but be an example. Number three, you have to teach them. You have to teach them. 1 Timothy 6:20. Guard the deposit is what Paul said. Guard the deposit. That means there has to be a deposit, so you have to teach them. Number 4, you have to teach them to fight well. 1 Timothy 6:12. Paul told Timothy, fight the good fight. Number 5, you have to instill good in them. 1 Timothy 6:11. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, and gentleness. What is this, number 6?
Yeah.
You have to be concerned for their future. Be concerned for their future. 1 Timothy 6:12 again. Take hold of eternal life. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakes. I want to share with you one last thing in closing. This hit me the other day. I was working out. And I have this HIIT workout that I do. And this is really the mindset that we need to get. I have this HIIT workout that I do. Saturdays are HIIT workout, high intensity interval training. And that's what I do on Saturdays, almost every Saturday. It's typically a five exercise rounds. I do rounds of 5 things. I do 3 minutes on the bag, a minute on the bike, and then the other things change. This day that I did it was 3 minutes on the bag, a minute on the bike, 10 leg lifts, 10 slam ball jump slams, and 25 crunches or whatever it was. I think I was doing more than that because it feels like it was a day where I was slacking, a week that I had slacked off or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm doing it, and then I'm doing the last round. So whatever I do, the last round I always do more. I do more. So I'd done 4 rounds of that. I'd done 4 rounds of everything, and in the last round, instead of 3 minutes on the bag, I do 4. Instead of 10, I do 15. Instead of 25, I do 50 of whatever it is. So I'm doing the 4 minutes on the bag, and I'm like, God, I don't know why I do this. I always want to finish strong, but I don't understand where that mentality came from. And he said, you're trying to be an old wolf, aren't you? And I said, I am. And he goes, you're going to be an old wolf, you have to finish stronger than you started. And it's about that one more. It's about that one more rep, gentlemen. It's about that one more rep. It's about that one more round. It's about that one more phone call. It's about that one more email. It's about that one more text message. It's about that one more goodnight kiss. It's about that one more prayer. It's about that one more chapter of the Word. It's about that one more phone call. It's about that one more thing. It's about that one more encouraging word. It's about that one more handshake. It's about that one more guy that you reach out to in this place. There is a war being fought. It's time for some of us to remember that we are not in a garden. We're in a freaking war. And it's time to pick up our swords and fight and teach the next generation to do the same. I love you guys.